I didn't talk about this, and it's extremely difficult to really parse what has been asked of the FCC. In the United States, there's a balancing act. We don't, in the Constitution, there is no constitutional provision for what is understood to be a department or an agency. The whole idea of everything in the U.S. being governed by some governing body in some office out of Arlington, that's a relatively recent concept. Right before World War II, in the 1930s, FDR basically reorganized the federal government because he had 4 terms. He also had World War II, so he had emergency powers to do whatever he wanted. He basically defined the concept of everything being in a department and also an agency. So there's a sort of balancing power where the enabling acts that create a agency body have a judicial, executive, and legislative body in each of them. So each agency has its own appeals process, its own executive, and also its own set of rules that are defined by the Congress. And the executive power, which is the president, can inform these agencies how to act. And that's supposed to be balanced, and what it does is it creates a giant fucking mess that nobody can penetrate or understand fully, and which can basically get away with whatever the fuck they want to do. So the FCC, which is tasked with governing communications in the United States, has been asked by Biden to establish rules for digital equity. And what it says, in its stated purpose, is that po people, the blacks, and the indigenous Americans do not have the same level of access to the internet as whitey, basically. And it actually specifically points out, and so just so you know that this isn't a racist thing, and they're not just saying we need to give more free internet to black people or whatever the fuck. Biden goes out of his way in this paper to make note to the FCC that the Amish population doesn't have the same levels of access to the internet as everybody else. So we need to do more to make sure that the Amish can get online. And that's not even a joke. It literally says that in the document. So this thing is 78 pages long, and it's extremely difficult to parse. I've gotten pretty good at reading legal paperwork. I cannot penetrate what the fuck this is trying to say and what it's trying to accomplish. I've never seen a legal paper that seems to suggest things without actually answering them. And I assume that's just how the executive branch deals with agencies, because it's well, we believe that Amish people don't have access to the internet same as everyone else. So what's the FCC going to do about that for equity and shit? It's the job of the FCC in response to be well, I guess we can set up some 5G satellites in Pennsylvania. That's I assume that it's asked a question so the FCC has to answer it in its policies. The commissioner of the FCC came out against this and said it didn't make any sense, but the FCC has passed it regardless of the commissioner's objections. And from what I understand, what I have read is that the president asked the agency to task basically everyone with making sure that people have equity to the internet regardless of race and sexual orientation and pregnancy status, which includes not just ISPs, not just telecom providers, not just infrastructure owners like the tier 1 ISPs, but also landlords. So the FCC can now regulate landlords to make sure that when you are renting, that your domicile provides equitable access to the internet. And what that means is a complete mystery to absolutely everyone, which is why they were against that. So basically anything that can be expected to provide or facilitate the internet is now under the purview of the FCC, and they are allowed and expected to, by their orders from the government, to intervene and figure out how to increase access to black people in the Amish. And that's what they done. And I in case you're wondering, I went through it and I tried to read it the best I can. I saw no mention whatsoever about specific companies being cut off for political affiliation or whatever. So very carefully in 78 pages, it manages to outline absolutely nothing of note while not impacting us in any way, shape, or form. Enjoy.